Reading in Proverbs.
I hope you are all having a wonderful week. And I'm guessing you are getting excited for Christmas coming up real soon. Grandma wants to read you a story that goes along with Christmas, really, because it is a story that's kind of adapted from Matthew, where it says, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was naked and you clothed me. This is a story adapted from the Brothers Grimm, and it's called The Star Jewels. A little girl once lived all alone with her old grandmother on the borders of a forest. They were so poor that they were scarcely able to buy food to eat or clothes to cover them. Never mind, Granny, the little girl would say. Someday I will be big enough to work, and then I will earn so much that I will be able to buy everything that we need and to give something to other poor folk as well. One day, the child went off into the forest to gather sticks. These she hoped to sell for a few pennies in the town over beyond the hill. She was to be gone all day, so she took with her into the forest a bit of bread, which was all they had left to eat. It was winter, and the air was bitterly cold. The child wrapped her little shawl about her and ran on as fast as she could. She was hungry, but she intended to save her crust until after the sticks were gathered. Just as she reached the edge of the forest, she met a boy, even smaller than herself, and he was crying bitterly. The little girl had a tender heart. She stopped and asked the child why he was weeping. I am weeping, he answered, because I am hungry. You've had nothing to eat today, she asked. I've had nothing and I am starving, for I do not know where to go for food. The little girl sighed. You are probably hungrier than I am, she said, and she took the crust from her pocket and gave it to the little boy. Then she again hurried on. That was very kind of her, wasn't it? Because she was hungry too and didn't have much to eat. A little farther on, she met another child who was even more miserable looking than the first, for this child seemed almost frozen with cold. Her clothing hung about her in rags, and her skin looked blue through the holes. Ah, cried she, if I had but a warm little dress like yours. Help me, I pray you, or I will certainly die of cold. The good little girl was filled with pity. I have both a dress and a shawl, she thought. I will give one of them to this poor child. She took off her dress and gave it to the child, and then wrapped the shawl closely about her shoulders. She was only wearing a shift. In spite of the shawl, she felt very cold. Still, she was near the place where the sticks were to be found, and as soon as she had gathered them, she would run home again. That would help warm her up. She hastened on, but when she reached the place where the sticks were, she saw an old woman already there, gathering up the fallen wood. The old woman was so bent and poor and miserable looking that the little girl's heart ached for her. Oh, groaned the old woman, how my poor bones do ache. If I had but a shawl to wrap about my shoulders, I would not suffer so. The child thought of her own grandmother and of how she sometimes suffered, and she took pity on the old woman. Here, said she, take my shawl, and slipping it from her shoulders, she gave it to the old woman. And now she stood there in the forest with her arms and shoulders bare, with nothing on but her little shift. The sharp wind blew about her, but she was not cold. She had eaten nothing, but she was not hungry. She was fed and warmed by her own kindness. That made her feel good to help other people. She gathered her sticks and started home again. It was growing dark, and the stars shone through the bare branches of the trees. Suddenly, an old man stood beside her. "Give me your stick," said he, "for my hearth is cold, and I am too old to gather wood for myself." The little girl sighed. If she gave him the stick, she would have to stop and gather more. Still, she could not refuse him. "Take them," she said, "in heaven's name." No sooner had she said this than she saw it was not an old man who stood before her, but a shining angel. "You have fed the hungry," said the angel. "You have clothed the naked, and you have given help to those who asked it. You shall not go unrewarded. See?" At once, a light shone above the child, and it seemed to her that all the stars of heaven were falling through the bare branches of the trees. But these stars were diamonds and rubies and other precious stones. They lay thick upon the ground. "Gather them together," said the angel, "for they are yours." Wondering, the child gathered them together, all that she could carry in the skirt of her little shift. When she looked about her again, the angel was gone, and the child hastened home with her treasure. It was enough to make her and her old grandmother rich. From then on, they lacked for nothing. They were able not only to have all they wished for, but to give to many who were poor. So they were not only rich, but beloved by all who knew them. And that, I think, is a nice Christmas story, because the Savior taught us that we should serve and help one another. And it's his birth that we are celebrating this week. So I hope we can remember to be kind and to serve and do good deeds for others, just like the Savior would ask us to do, and like he did for us. Have a Merry Christmas. Bye. Remember, Grandma loves you.